Welcome, welcome, welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 565 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular Podcast, not only asked you to agree with me, I'm asked you to hear me out. With the new NFL season essentially about to start, and I'm not talking about, preseason and everything. I'm saying the new physical NFL year. You're going to start to see players get cut, players get released, players join different teams and hit free agency. This is a very transactional time and transitional time in the NFL. And there are going to be big names that you hear get cut, get released, big free agents that you may think go to one team, go to another. This is such an important time for the NFL. This is where things start really gearing up. OTAs are about to start. We talked about that last episode with the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. And one of the big names that we already know is set to be released or cut, no matter how, depending on how you say it, is Kyler Murray. He put out a statement essentially apologizing to the fan base of the Arizona Cardinals for not getting done what he essentially wanted to and the team not really finding success. And with Kyler Murray being released, you're hearing a lot of different opinions about why or how essentially we got here. Kyler Murray being a former Heisman winner, number one overall pick, to now being released from the Arizona Cardinals. I want to first address and tackle one angle that I'm hearing about this, and that is the lack of development in the NFL. You're seeing that. I think that it's very rare that we get a Phillip Rivers, that we get a Drew Brees, that we get an Aaron Rodgers at this point. And what I'm saying is quarterbacks that have long-standing careers. Now, I'm not saying that we aren't going to get them. I think people like Lamar Jackson, people like Patrick Mahomes, people like Josh Allen, people like Joe Burrow, hopefully Jaden Daniels. I think that we're still going to see that. But we're not going to, I think we're very far from the days that we have long-standing quarterbacks in the league. And I do think a lot of that is due to the lack of development. You see, teams have always been impatient. This isn't just a new age thing. Teams have always been impatient when there's money on the line, when you're spending money on players, when you're spending money on teams, owners, GMs, they've always been impatient. But I think the difference between then and now is the window that their patience essentially runs out is a lot skinnier. Their patience runs out a lot sooner than usual or than back in the day. On top of the fact that when you want instant success, what people what I feel like a lot of people don't understand is there is a lot that goes into quote unquote instant success. I think that's outside of his talent. That's one reason why people marvel at Patrick Mahomes, because it's very rare that you get a lot of things that line up for you. Now, again, a lot of Patrick Mahomes' success is because Patrick Mahomes is just that guy. He is an all-time player. But the fact that you go to a team where you're not expected to be the day one starter, you have Alex Smith. You go to a team that essentially has the best coach for you in Andy Reid. That just doesn't happen. You have a really good defense. You have Travis Kelce there. You have Tyreek Hill there. That just does not happen a lot of times. And teams, GMs, owners necessarily don't always understand that. You see, I don't know if there's a way to change it. I don't think there is a way to change it, but I do feel for players. When you hear number one overall pick, you hear about the money, you hear about them being essentially the best player in the draft. At least that's what it's projected to be. But what's very rarely talked about is you're going to an organization that needs you. Like, you're going to an organization that is so far from win now. But because they have a quarterback, usually that's the number one overall pick, they expect for you to change their fortune. Well, the thing is, these quarterbacks need help, which goes back to development. And I feel like teams do not invest in developing their quarterbacks like they used to. Maybe because they see just how great they are in college and think that what's happening in college is just automatically going to transfer to the NFL. That's not always the case. If you want a prime example, and I don't mean to throw him under the bus or anything, but if you want a prime example, look at Anthony Richardson. Athletic freak in college. Still an athletic freak, but Anthony Richardson is about to be out of the Colts. And he was what, the third overall pick? I do believe that the NFL finds themselves with a player development, quarterback development problem. I feel that they don't understand that it takes more than just being a top overall pick. It takes a team. It takes development and it's not just because I don't think it's they don't know how to develop quarterbacks. I think that some of it is that, but it's also they don't have the patience to do that. They don't have the patience to realize, okay, it might take about 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years because of the contracts and how they're set up. It might take about 5 years to get this player to the best point of or to the best of their ability. So you might go through some tough years. When you have a number one overall pick, a lot of times uh, they don't give them that much grace. Let's and then we also have to, while we're developing this quarterback, we have to develop the team. We have to get pieces around him. You have to get an offensive line. You have to get a defense. You have to get the right coordinators. You have to get the right coaches. There's so much that goes into it that I just feel like teams don't have the patience. And I don't know if that's due to just the the allure of success, especially when you have a draft pick like that. You want it as quick as possible. I don't get it. But one thing that I do understand is I think that is hurting just the product. There should be no reason why it's difficult to do a top 10 quarterback list in the league. In the sense of, like, we know the top maybe five, maybe six. And then it actually, outside of the top 10, it gets dicey. I wanted to start this episode by saying that because I do believe that there is a player development, quarterback development issue. When you see a lot of top draft pick quarterbacks are it's essentially not in the league anymore or have been benched, there is an issue there. Kyler Murray being, well, not benched, but being released, there is an issue there. But I wanted to start that off because while I do agree that there is a development issue, I don't necessarily think that is the issue, and that is why Kyler Murray got released. That is an angle that I've heard, but I don't think that's necessarily the issue. What I think the issue, and Where I think Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals went wrong, where I think this whole relationship soured. Um, the beginning of the end, if you will, for Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals was they saw success. Maybe not, maybe they won't call it success, but they saw success. And they saw what could have been, or they saw the ceiling. And that ceiling wasn't necessarily as high as they would have liked. We saw this team go, what, 10 and 0, 11 and 0. We saw this team go 7 and 0 with Kyler Murray as the quarterback. We know that Kyler Murray has talent, but we also know that there's been several flameouts, including the 11, I think it was 10 or 11 and 0, and they were a top seed in the playoffs, and they lost what, the first round to the Rams. The one vivid memory they were 7 and 0 going up against the Green Bay Packers, and AJ Brown, or AJ Green, I'm sorry, never turned his head around, and the ball was intercepted, and the season just went downhill from there. I feel like I feel like the Arizona Cardinals saw what the ceiling could be, because when you have to be a good team if you're 10 and 0, 7 and 0 or something like that. You have to you're a good team. It's just, can you run through the tape essentially? Can you finish out the job? And they were never able to do that. And I know this is difficult to say, but there are some quarterbacks that don't have a championship ceiling. There are some quarterbacks that can be exceptional, that they just don't have that Super Bowl ceiling. And to this point, it doesn't look like Kyler Murray is one of those quarterbacks that have a championship ceiling. I don't necessarily think that that means he's not a franchise quarterback, but I do believe that from what we've seen, even at his best, I don't think Kyler Murray is a championship caliber quarterback. And I guess the Cardinals feel the same exact way, which is why they're releasing him. I'm not necessarily putting all the failures on Kyler Murray and just his inabilities. I think that injuries played a part. Injuries to key players played a part. Not having a really good offensive line. You see, goes back to the development point. It's not just developing a player. You have to develop when you have a quarterback. The most important thing is to have pieces around them. And there were seasons where the Cardinals did not provide Kyler Murray with good pieces. There were seasons when they did, but there were also seasons when they did not. There were seasons when their offensive line was horrible. There were seasons when they didn't really have a good running back. There were seasons when they didn't have really good wide receivers. It's like a lot has to go right for you to be a outside of talent, for you to be a championship team. And things just would not go right for the Cardinals. I also think that Kyler Murray's contract definitely plays a huge part in this. Now, being one of the higher paid quarterbacks and not really finding the success that you were hoping for with that type of price tag attached to you. I think that it was a bevy of things. Not necessarily all on Kyler Murray, not necessarily all on the Arizona Cardinals, but this was a relationship that honestly you kind of understood that this was going to come to an end either peacefully or messy. And Kyler Murray is getting released, which then again goes into the other part of this is Kyler Murray a franchise quarterback? To answer that question, I think we have to understand what a franchise quarterback is because it sounds like, it's grand, which it is, but people don't understand necessarily what that means. And I also think that teams and people also figure if you're a franchise quarterback, that automatically means that everything that you don't need as much help as other people would need, which is true. But in the case of Kyler Murray, I think he can still be a franchise quarterback. I think Kyler Murray is young enough. I think Kyler Murray is still talented. He can be a franchise quarterback. In fact, Kyler Murray just last year, and he oh just last year, and he didn't even finish most of the season. He almost had 1,000 yards. It goes back to this. Kyler Murray has proven to be, he's only 28. Kyler Murray has proven to be a really good player. But he's also proven from both his lack of success and his success in Arizona that he is one of those quarterbacks that can be a franchise quarterback, but he may not be the type of quarterback that can elevate everyone else without having help. You see, I feel there's a different class in a sense of uh, you have the Lamar Jackson and the Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Those are the players that they can do a lot with a little. Joe Burrow's like that. You can do a lot with a little. Kyler Murray is not in that tier, but Kyler Murray has proven that he can be a franchise quarterback. You just need the right things. Him being 5'10 doesn't help either. One of the shortest quarterbacks in the league. But you put Kyler Murray behind a really good offensive line. You know what I was thinking? I was thinking about the Philadelphia Eagles. Last episode, I talked about Kirk Cousins, and I said how Kirk Cousins was on Bleacher Report's 99 best quarterbacks of all time. He was like 71. And someone that I did not focus on was Jalen Hurts, who was like 75. And we saw how disappointing necessarily we can say the season was for the Philadelphia Eagles this year. Coming off of a Super Bowl, didn't make it out of the first round of the playoffs. And the reason why I think about the Eagles is because I think Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback. But even me saying that, we know the limitations that Jalen Hurts has. He's not the best of passers. He's a good decision maker, but he's not the best passer in the league. He doesn't have really a cannon of an arm. He doesn't have the most accurate quarterback. He's a good quarterback. And We know this every single year. There are limitations to Jalen Hurts that doesn't make him an elite quarterback. So when I was thinking about that, and then coupling that with, well, Bleacher Report, and I know that's just people's opinions, but Bleacher Report has him as the 75th best quarterback of all time. A lot of that is because of the things that are around him. He has yearly one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines since his career began. He's had one of, if not the best defenses in the league since his career began. You have someone like AJ Brown. You have someone like Saquon Barkley. You have someone like Dallas Goddard. You have someone like Devontae Smith. All that matters in the grand scheme of things. These are important pieces. Now, why did I bring up Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles? And where did my mind go when I said I was thinking about the Eagles? I think about what happens when you put X player on that Eagles team. Now, I know a lot of the issues this year was because of the offensive coordinator, but I think about what happens if you put Josh Allen on that Eagles team. Has, Jalen Brown as a weapon and Devontae Smith as a weapon. What happens if you put Patrick Mahomes on that Eagles team? What happens if you put Lamar Jackson on the Eagles team? I think that the Eagles are Super Bowl favorites with those type of players. I also thought when I heard that Kyler Murray was going to be released, what happens if Kyler Murray goes in the Eagles team? I'm not necessarily going to say that Kyler Murray is better than Jalen Hurts, but I do think that he does things better than Jalen Hurts. And I don't know if they'll be a Super Bowl favorite, but I promise you they'd be a playoff favorite. They definitely make the playoffs, which brings me to the fact that I think that Kyler Murray is a franchise quarterback. He just is one of those quarterbacks that you need a lot around him for him to be great. I still, and again, it goes back. I never really answered it. What is a franchise quarterback? A franchise quarterback is a quarterback that essentially can change the fortune of a franchise. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be the best player, but they can change the fortune of a franchise. I think Kyler Murray can do that. You just need the right pieces, the right stuff around him. And that's something that the Arizona Cardinals have not been able to do. Yeah, you have Marvin Harrison, great. James Conner, but he was out this season. Kyler Murray could it was just a lot. Um and it is something to be said that there are players that just need a new change of scenery. One of the poster childs for that right now is Sam Darnold. You just need the right place. And I just think Kyler Murray, the relationship just ran its course in Arizona. I think that this is a very important time, seeing as though he now has the ability to essentially pick where he wants to go. Now he's being released. Uh, and there are some really good teams that I think could use him, like the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know that Aaron Rodgers could or could not come back next year, but having Kyler Murray on the Steelers would be great, even though they do need to fix that offensive line and maybe get another weapon outside of DK Metcalf. Or the Colts. The Colts would be great. The Colts have a really good offensive line. Like you get someone like Kyler Murray, and you think Daniel Jones is good. I think Kyler Murray would be great for the Colts. It's another team that could use a. I would always say the Jets, but I don't want nobody going to the Jets. Yeah, there's a bunch of places where Kyler Murray could definitely go, um, and change the fortune of that franchise. It just has to be the right place. But I'm not just solely putting blame on Kyler Murray. I'm not just solely putting blame on the Arizona Cardinals. I just think there were, being a number one overall pick, there was a lot of expectation. And we've seen how high that ceiling is for Kyler Murray and this Arizona Cardinals team with Kyler Murray as the quarterback. It's just that ceiling wasn't as high as one, the price tag is attached to his name, and two, essentially what the Arizona Cardinals wanted. And you know that's the case because it kind of goes to the Trevor Lawrence argument. The Trevor Lawrence argument is okay, you're essentially paying this guy for potential, and this was before last season. You're paying this guy for potential, and you're essentially paying this guy to not leave. And there's a lot of people, and I have some quarrels about it, but there's a lot of people that's like he doesn't deserve the money, this, that, and the third. And an argument is always, well, if not he, then who? Which seems like a very simple argument, but it's actually a real one. Who who do the Cardinals think they're going to get? Who is out there that is available that is going to be better? Because even we saw Jacoby Brissett, who played well, sort of, but who is the Cardinals going to get better than Kyler Murray? Clearly, you know the relationship is ran its course because I don't think there's really anybody available that's openly available right now that is better than Kyler Murray. Unless I'm blanking on a name. I don't even think there's outside of obviously Fernando Mendoza coming in. I don't think there's any quarterback in the draft that would be better than Kyler Murray. So I don't know who. Let me see NFL. Where are the Cardinals drafting? I think that's important. Third, who are the Cardinals getting at three that is a good replacement for Kyler Murray? I don't know. But I do wish the best for both Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, and we'll see what happens. Again, there are some teams that can definitely use Kyler Murray right now. Like I said, I know Tyler Shaw played good towards the end of the season, but maybe the Saints. I said the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe the Dolphins. They're about to get rid of Tua Tagovailoa. You know, the the Vikings. It looks like the Vikings are pretty much done with JJ McCarthy. Who knows, man? There's some places that he can go. Um, but one thing that we do know is his time with Arizona is essentially over. So let's move forward. Let's talk about Miami of Ohio right quick and how, as much as we don't want to admit it, the failures that we saw, or the flameouts essentially that we saw in the college football playoffs with Tulane and who was the other team? Um, with mid majors is now affecting the Miami Redhawks, who is currently, as we speak, 29-0. And the reason why I want to talk about them, and the reason why that they are kind of buzzing in the sports news is because even at 29-0, they are in danger of missing the tournament in March, or the March Madness tournament. And a lot of people are screaming strength of schedule, strength of schedule. What about the strength of schedule? You know, they have one of the weakest strength of schedules. And even with their strength of schedule, it's not like they're blowing teams out for real. Like they're 10, 15, 20 point favorites, and they're only winning by 2 points. They're only winning by 3 points. They're only winning at buzzer beaters. That's understandable. My thing is this: I completely understand. I completely understand the argument of strength of schedule. I completely understand how a team like the Auburn Tigers, who is 15-14, thinks that they should have a better shot at making the college or the tournament more than a 29-0 Miami Redhawks because of strength of schedule. Auburn has a definitively tougher schedule the than the Miami Redhawks. But it goes back to this, man. This is always going to be the argument. This is always going to be the conversation. If you don't trust or if you don't like, right? If you feel that mid majors are never going to have a tougher schedule than a Power 5 school. Never. Like listen to who they're playing. Old Dominion, Trinity, Air Force, UNC Goldsboro, Maine, UNC Asheville, Ball State, UMass. Like the mid majors are never going to have a tougher strength of schedule than a Power Five. That's just how it's going to be. My thing is, if this is always going to be a question, why not make it definitively? Okay, mid majors are not allowed into March Madness, or allowed into the tournament, or let's not keep arguing about it. Now, if they lose, I get it. But in my opinion, even if they lose, bro, there's a possibility they can be 31-0. 30, or they can be 30-0 or 30-1. When you have a team, and this is my favorite team, I know the strength of schedule is different, but you have a team in North Carolina that has several losses, that is a 17 seed right now. Two at this moment that we're recording, two levels higher, two seeds higher than the Redhawks. When you have a team like Alabama that is, if I'm looking right now, they may lose to Georgia. I think strength of schedule, excuse me, is important. I think when you're making an argument about who is going to make the tournament and who's not going to make the tournament, I get the strength of schedule argument. But here's something that's not really talked about. There's obviously Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. That's like the ranking of how tough the opponent is. Do you know that a team like Auburn, a team like my Alabama, a team like UConn, who is I think fourth or fifth in the nation right now, do you know that they have more quad two losses than Miami of Ohio? Well, that's never talked about. Do you know that Michigan, who I think is the number one or two seed in the league in the tournament right now, has more quad two losses than Miami of Ohio? Again, I understand straight the schedule is important, but that's not the whole thing. And the thing that is killing Miami of Ohio right now is something that has nothing to do with them, essentially. And that is what happened in the college football playoffs this year. I'm trying to see what happened to James Madison. That's who it was. James Madison and Tulane. When they scored a combined 44 points, and the opposing teams scored a combined 92 points. And I may not think that Miami, Ohio is that good of a team, but they're clearly 29-0. They clearly have went up against 29 people, possibly 30 people after this recording, and went right now as we speak, they're beating uh Toledo. I think that even if they lose one game, even if they lose one game, I feel that opens up a much broader conversation because we don't know if they lose or not. I mean, remember the year, a couple years actually, where Walford was like one of the last teams to get in and they upset it something like Kentucky or something. I think that it would be such a black eye to the league, black eye to this whole ecosystem of college basketball, which already isn't perfect. But if a team that is 29 and 0, even if they lose one game, that is 30 and 1, does not make the tournament. But a team, and I'm not saying them, but I'm only saying them because of Bruce Pearl and all this, the conversation. But a team that has 9, 10, 11 losses, just has a tougher schedule, gets into the tournament. That would be insane of a conversation. A team that has not just more quad two losses, but more losses in general makes it over a team, even if Miami loses. Miami of Ohio makes it over. That is insane. But the reason why we're talking about this is because that is a very strong possibility. And I know people will say, but Jay, what if they just get what if they make it to the tournament and they just get dog walked or they lose? So why are we basing it on if they can win a national championship compared to did they do enough in the regular season to make the tournament? If that's the case, as much as I love my team, I don't know if North Carolina is good enough this year to make the tournament. So does that mean that they should make it? I know for damn sure Alabama's not good enough to make the tournament. You think they shouldn't make it? You think that St. John, who is ranked 18th and possibly might lose to Georgetown, I don't think they can make it. But you think I don't think that they can win the national championship. You think they shouldn't make it? See, what people's argument is what you're hearing is they don't feel the regular season matters as much. Because if that's the case, we would not be talking about a 31 and 0 or 30 and 0 or 30 and 1 team not making the playoffs. Because that's the only argument that people have about Miami of Ohio not making the tournament, and that is the strength of schedule. Not the fact that they beat everybody that was on their schedule. And they're like, nah, they don't have that strong of a schedule, bro. Okay. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. All I'm saying is that Lord have mercy. All I'm saying is this. Um, it would be it would open up the floodgates to a crazy conversation if Miami of Ohio doesn't make the tournament, even if they lose one of these games. But we'll see. Speaking of we'll see, let's talk about something that Luka Doncic and this Lakers team is learning in real time. That is just the sheer unrealistic expectations of being a Laker. There's a lot going on with the Lakers right now. It's a lot of bad. I'll just be real with you. There's a lot of bad. And you see a lot of people pointing fingers. And one finger is being pointed directly at Luka Doncic, who to this point right now is the Lakers' best player. No offense to LeBron James, he's 41 at the end of his career. The best player for the Lakers is Luka Doncic. And people are looking at Luka like, yo, why are we suck? Why are we not that good? Um, I challenge people. Leave it in the comments. I'll probably do a reel about this. Name me the team that won a championship because one or two players were great and everyone else was mediocre. I'll wait. Ever you see, the Lakers is a perfect example of how important the construction of a roster is. I don't think Luka Doncic is the perfect player. I never have. And you know who didn't and knew he wasn't a perfect player? The Dallas Mavericks. You see, the Dallas Mavericks did something that nobody thought they could do. And that was not only reach an NBA finals, but reach a conference finals 2 years in a row. And there was questions on how. When you see the roster and the non-big names outside of Luka, outside of Kyrie Irving, you question yourself, how did this team not just make it to two AFC or two Western Conference championships, but they made it to an NBA Finals? One thing you see a lot of, lack of a better term, role players and you see Daniel Gafford, you see Derek Lively, you see these players, and it's just like, how? Everyone in their mama knows that Luka Doncic don't play defense. Defense is not his strong suit. Defense, I don't even think most of the time he tries on defense. That's just the reality of playing alongside Luka Doncic. Now, yes, as a basketball fan, as many Lakers fans would hope, you would hope that he would take playing defense seriously and want to actually commit to that side of the ball. Well, what we've learned is that that's just not him. You hear a lot of this has been going on majority of his career and ain't nothing changing, at least on the defensive side of the ball. One thing that we do know is Luka Doncic in every metric, in every way, shape, or form is one of the best offensive players in the league. But one thing that the Dallas Mavericks did perfectly is they built a team around him, and not necessarily just around his strengths, but they built a team around his weaknesses. They built, they had a good defender in PJ Tucker. They had a great defender, a rim protector in Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. They can take him off the ball and give it to a Kyrie Irving if he's struggling. While both don't play much defense, Kyrie Irving surprisingly plays better defense than Luka. It's all about construction. And when you look at this Dallas or Luke Lakers team, this Lakers team is full of, in fact, let me just read off some of these names. Okay. You have Rui Hachimura, who hasn't really been healthy. Jackson Hayes, who hasn't really amounted to much. Luke Kennard, who just got to the team and isn't a defender. Max Kleber, Maxi Kleber, I'm sorry. Dalton Kincaid, not a defender. Jake Lavera, not a defender. Austin Reeves, not a defender. Marcus Smart, I don't know what the hell he is at this point of his career. Um, Jared Vanderbilt. You know what this team has? And I said this all the time. This is a team full of one dimensional players, a team full of players that do one thing great. And like Jared Vanderbilt, great defender. That is it. If you need him to score 20 points, you're in for a long night. Austin Reeves, incredible score. That is it. Oh, he can pass the ball a little bit, but that is it. If you need him to defend, you're done. LeBron James at this point of his career is not a two-way player anymore. You got to he's not the best defender, nor is he really the best offensive player because he's 41. Name me the team that has had a a team full of one-dimensional players win a championship. The worst team that has won a championship in recent memory is the 2022 Golden State Warriors that had Steph and Clay wasn't playing too well, and Draymond Green. They had Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins. Even that team had two-way play. Andrew Wiggins had the best stretch of his career. Klay Thompson was hitting shots when he needed to. Jordan Poole was a spark plug to come off the bench. Do I think that Luka Doncic? I'll say this actually. That 2022 Golden State Warriors team is 10 times better than this uh Lakers team. Now, when you look on paper, the Lakers, LeBron, Luka, DeAndre Ayton, who was god awful. I'm not blaming. This isn't Luka's fault. Yes, Luka can play much better defense. And it's not a cop out, but you know what you're getting from that player because he's never, ever focused on the defensive side of the ball. The issue with this team is um, the construction of the team. From the construction of the team from day one hasn't been great. And I'm not just putting on the coach or whatever, but you also have a coach that never, and JJ Redick, that even in his playing career never focused on defense. Now, I'm not saying that can't work because we have someone like Steve Kerr who never focused on defense as a player, and you see the success he had as the Golden State Warriors coach. But like, this isn't necessarily just this isn't. I wouldn't, there's people saying they want Luka off the team. You're hearing Byron Scott say he want LeBron James off the team. Like, this is what happens when there is. I mean, you're the Lakers, so there's always unrealistic expectation, and you're a one dimensional team. I, like, what else? What else are you gonna do? So we'll see if they can turn it around. But I think the ceiling for this team is what, second, third round. I mean, not third round, maybe second round of the playoffs. But if you I don't care how great of a player you have. If you're not dedicated to the defensive side of the ball, you're never. There's always there's not much else you could do. There's always going to be a ceiling. So, but yeah, man, people screaming Luka should be off the team is insane. Just build a team around him, a competent team. You have a bunch of one dimensional players. A lot of those players that you depend heavily on do the same exact thing as Luka, just not as good. Let's start there. Let's move forward. Let's go back over to football right quick because I want to talk about this David Montgomery trade. David Montgomery getting traded from the Lions to the Texans. Um, and this, I'm gonna be real with you. Um, whoa. Um, I'm gonna talk about Detroit for a second. People are saying and screaming that this is the sign of a rebuild. When you have a player as integral to your team as David Montgomery is, and how good he can be to a team, what is happening? Lord have mercy, my fault. When you have a player as integral to a team as David Montgomery, and then you trade him, usually that spells the sign of a rebuild. And people are like, well, no, you have Knuckles and Son. What was it Knuckles and Sonic or Tails when it was Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery? Losing changes your perspective on a lot of things. Not just that, losing also shortens your tolerance for a lot of things. Things that you may usually tolerate, you don't tolerate anymore. Okay. All right, though. My fault, guys. Things you just don't tolerate them anymore. Yes. I think that when you look, the combination of David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs is a very formidable running back duo, and a running back duo that you just don't see. I think that with those two as your running backs, you definitely have the best 1-2 punch at the running back position. However, what has that running back duo gotten you? Nothing. The Lions, and it's when you look at their history, it's shocking to really say this, but the Lions have drastically underachieved as of recently. Now, I'm not saying it's necessarily because of them, but when year after year after year, key key pieces continuously get hurt, I don't know. At some point, and then you pay Jameer Gibbs what you pay Jameer Gibbs. David Montgomery's looking for a payday because he knows how important he is. But then, obviously, in the negotiation table, you're thinking to yourself, well, a team is always going to find ways not to do something. They're like, think about it. Lamar Jackson has to negotiate a contract extension with the Baltimore Ravens. As important as he has to negotiate that. That's Lamar Jackson. So when you're David Montgomery, it's like, well, me and Jameer Gibbs is a great 1-2 punch. And you just paid Jameer Gibbs. Now, what about me? And then they're thinking, well, yeah, you and Jameer Gibbs is a great number one or 1-2 punch, but what has that gotten us? Why would we pay two running backs top of the market money and we ain't even smelt a Super Bowl? I don't think that this is, a rebuild or anything, but what I do think is that what I think this is for Detroit is they are acknowledging that we have had so much, I mean, with people's contracts coming up, we've had so much expectation with Jared Goff and Amara St. Brown and David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs and Sam Laporta to not have nothing. Every single year, we talk about this team as one of the better teams, possibly, and a team that should make the Super Bowl. To, I mean, either is mostly is due to injury, but still, you don't even get close. And on top of the fact that they made their decision, I mean, yeah, the whole tails and knuckles thing is cool, But once payday, once you got to pay for that, it's like, all right, hold on, hold on. Yeah, yeah. And what does this mean for the Houston Texans? It means that this will be yet another year where CJ Stroud is out of excuses. I agree with uh, I agree with people that are saying Troy Aikman. There you go. I agree with Troy Aikman. I agree with Shannon Sharp when they say that the Houston Texans are trying to chase rookie year CJ Stroud, which we haven't seen clearly since his rookie year. Like CJ Stroud ain't even been remotely close. Um, and people were saying, well, CJ Stroud, Tank Dell was out, and Nico Collins was out last game of the season, or last game. And Joe Mixon, who was a very integral piece that they got in free agents or in the offseason, he didn't play. Well, now you have a running back that a lot of people view as a top tier running back. And you're going to get Tank Dell back. You're going to get Nico Collins back. At some point, the excuses are going to run out. And they're already starting to run out for CJ Stroud. I don't think, and I'm not necessarily saying it's all CJ Stroud's fault. I do think the offensive line, which I do think they traded to get an offensive lineman, uh, so that hopefully should help. But yeah, man, I don't. I think this was CJ Stroud. Like you got to figure something out, bro. And David Montgomery can help. And for the Lions, if there was one piece that you could afford to, I guess, let go, it would be David Montgomery. You just gotta, you just gotta figure out how to get healthy, which has never been the case. So we'll see. Let's talk about Lu Dort for a second. Lu Dort is a he's a very unique type of player. Lu Dort is one of those players that made it to the league one way, and that is with toughness. That is with uh, defense. That's with being able to toe the line. I put Lu Dort in the same boat. I think that he's better, obviously, but I put Lu Dort in the same boat as Draymond Green and someone like, why am I blanking on it? Patrick Beverly. Those players that they would not be in the league if they didn't toe the line, um if they didn't lead with aggression, lead with their defense, if they didn't do the dirty things, essentially. And the reason why I use dirty things is because people are accusing Lou Dort of being a dirty player. Now, I do think that there's a difference between doing dirty things and being a dirty player. I think that you can do dirty things or a dirty thing like trip a player or something like that. But I don't necessarily think that you're a dirty player because that hasn't been in your MO like at all. Then I think there are players that the only reason why they are successful and the only reason why they are necessarily in the league or in the position that they're in is because they continuously do things to cross the line. And Lu Dort is one of those players. He's been like that pretty much his entire career. And this is coming off of a scuffle that happened with the Denver Nuggets and how he directly got in Nikola Jokic's way, which Nikola Jokic bumped into him. He fell, got up, scrummage happened. I think that the I know that the Oklahoma City Thunder get away with a lot. They're one of the most physical teams in the league that never really get caught in their physicality. In fact, I think people are so frustrated with the OKC Thunders because you have a player like Shea Gilgeous Alexander, which seems that because he puts so much pressure on the rim, because he's put so much pressure on other teams, because he puts so much pressure on the defenders, because he puts so much pressure on the officials, he gets calls a lot. He gets to the line a lot, but that's just because he's an uber aggressive player. But to the outside world, it's like, God dang, like they continuously call something on, there's a meme, there's multiple memes going around saying that you can't even breathe on Shea Gilgeous Alexander or you're gonna get called for a foul. In the same realm that the Oklahoma City Thunder is one of the most aggressive teams from Alex Caruso to Lu Dort. They just they're aggressive. Another team like that is Detroit Pistons. The only difference between the Detroit Pistons and Oklahoma City Thunder is Cade Cunningham doesn't get the same whistles as Shea Gilgeous Alexander, but they do play, their style of play is a little different. I think Lou Dort is a good player. His shooting ability, his defense, I think he's a good player, but I do think that he continuously does things that can be labeled as dirty. He does things that continuously cross the line. And I understand that that's what he needed to do to get there. That's what he needs to do to be considered a champion, needs to do to be in the league, because I don't know if his talent warrants him being an NBA player. But his defense and some of the things that he does on defense is the reason, puts him over the top. Well, a lot of the things that he does, like Draymond Green to this point, like Patrick Beverly to this point, like someone like PJ Tucker, continuously cross the line. So I understand why people are calling him a dirty player because he does dirty things. I don't think that's the nature of who he is, but there are compilations on YouTube of Lou Dort doing dirty things. That means something. So yeah, I do think that you know if there's smoke, there's fire. And at this point, the smoke is a lot of people complaining about Lou Dort being a dirty player. I think there's something there. Back up. There's more than something there. It is. I'm inclined to believe that. Yeah, it is probably true. So yeah. Lastly, before we go, look, man. I talked about the last episode. Since last episode, now Floyd Mayweather is fighting a third opponent. This isn't the first time Floyd Mayweather has fought three opponents in 1 year. However, I think last time he did that, he was either 25 years old, I believe. He was like 21 or 25. Again, Floyd Mayweather is 49 years old. Again, I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. But this screams I am hurting for money and I need money. You're hearing a lot of people say that he owes a lot of people a lot of money. I don't know. But what I will say is this is such a bad look. I mean, it's it's unfortunate that somebody that is made, if this is about money, because at this point there is nothing else it could be about. There's nothing else that this could be about. The fact that you're fighting three people, two of which is 59-year-old Mike Tyson and 57-year-old Manny Pacquiao, and then you're fighting a kickboxer. This it's At this point, I don't think it can really be anything else but money issues, and I it's if it is that, it is unfortunate how somebody that touched the amount of money that he touched is hurting for money. Now, I understand that is different levels. I'm sure being broke to Floyd Mayweather is different from me being broke. Like, I understand that. But the fact that he's touched that much money and now resorting to having to fight three fights at age 49, again, I'm not going to say that that is the reason because I don't know. But there's nothing in me. There's nothing else that it could be. They can spin it. Oh, it's a legacy thing. No, it's bro. What? There's nothing else I could see this being. But Floyd Mayweather hurting for money and he needs it. That's it. Which is slick sad in my opinion. There you have it. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I truly, truly, truly appreciate you guys. If you want a Popular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, the links in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to get as many subscribers as possible. I appreciate all you guys. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. It definitely means a lot. Also, for my DSPs, as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, please follow. Again, I'm trying to grow the podcast unilaterally, and I cannot do it without you guys' help. So please, please, please follow, please rate, please share, please subscribe. It definitely means a lot. Uh, for all my DSPs no, for my socials, that's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I post pretty much daily. Please follow. Please subscribe. I don't mind going back and forth. Leave comments. It means a lot to me. I'm saying if you're gonna leave a comment, keep it respectful, one. And two, why not follow? You know what I mean? So yeah, all my socials, please follow. Until next time, much love.